Commander Alan Becker stood at the large window of International Space Station Alpha, his eyes fixed on the massive alien ship that hovered just beyond Earth's atmosphere. The vessel was beautiful in a strange way, its surface shimmering with colors humans had no names for. It was also a constant reminder that humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and that they were far from being the most advanced species among the stars. The Vashiri had arrived 3 years ago. At first there was panic. People expected the worst: invasion, war, maybe even the end of human civilization. But the aliens came with smiles and gifts, or at least that's what they called them. "Commander, the Vashiri shuttle is approaching Dock 5, said a voice over the intercom. Alan sighed and straightened his uniform. "I'll be right there." These meetings always left him feeling small and stupid, like a child being patted on the head by adults. He made his way through the station's corridors to the docking area. Dr. Lisa Morgan was already there, clipboard in hand, her face showing the same mix of excitement and frustration it always did when the aliens arrived. "Another delivery of cosmic garbage?" Alan asked. Lisa nodded. "They call it technology sharing. I call it dumping their trash in our lap." The airlock hissed open. 2 Vashiri stepped through, tall and slender with skin that seemed to shimmer in the light. Their eyes, 3 on each face, blinked in an unsettling pattern. The taller one, who had introduced himself months ago as Speaker Kren, carried a large container. "Greetings, friends of Earth," Speaker Kren said, his voice melodic through the translation device at his throat. "We bring more gifts from our people to yours." Lisa stepped forward, professional as always. "Thank you, Speaker Kren. We appreciate your generosity." The second alien made a sound that the translation device didn't catch, but Alan recognized it as their version of laughter. The Vashiri found humans amusing, like clever pets who could do tricks. Speaker Kren placed the container on the ground and opened it. Inside were various mechanical parts, power cells, and what looked like damaged pieces of equipment. "These are from our older vessels," Speaker Kren explained. "No longer useful to us, but perhaps educational for your scientists." Lisa nodded and smiled, though Alan knew she was gritting her teeth. The Vashiri never gave them anything that actually worked, just broken pieces, outdated tech, and things they considered useless. It was like giving a calculator with half the buttons missing to someone who had just discovered how to count. "We will study them carefully," Lisa said. Speaker Kren's 3 eyes blinked in sequence. "You try so hard. It is, what is your word? Cute." After the Vashiri left, Lisa knelt beside the container and began examining the items. Despite everything, her eyes lit up with genuine interest. "Junk again?" Alan asked. Lisa pulled out what looked like a cracked power cell. "Yes and no. It's damaged. Outdated by their standards, but still centuries beyond what we can create." She turned the cell over in her hands. "There's something here, Alan. Something they don't see." Back on Earth a week later, Lisa sat in her office at NASA's Xenotech division. Around her were pieces of alien technology spread across 3 large tables. Most people saw trash. Lisa saw possibilities. A knock at her door pulled her attention away from the power cell she was examining. Kyle Winters stood there, his lanky frame leaning against the doorway. "You called for an engineer?" he asked with a half-smile. Lisa nodded. "Come in. I need your eyes on this." Kyle had been a military engineer before the Vashiri arrived. Now he worked for NASA, one of the few people who could look at broken alien tech and see how it might connect to human systems. "What have we got?" he asked, pulling up a chair. Lisa pushed the power cell toward him. "This was in the last delivery. It's damaged, but I think it still holds a charge. More importantly, I think we can interface with it." Kyle examined the cell carefully. "The connection points are unlike anything I've seen before, but..." He paused, turning it over. "Wait, if we look at it from this angle, there's a pattern similar to our quantum field generators." "Exactly," Lisa said, excitement creeping into her voice. "And that's not all." She showed him more pieces from recent deliveries. Hull fragments with unusual properties, damaged weapon systems, communication devices. Separately, they were curious but limited. Together, they hinted at principles that could revolutionize human technology. "They think we're too primitive to understand any of this," Lisa said. "They expect us to stare at these pieces like cavemen finding a smartphone." "But you see something they don't," Kyle said. It wasn't a question. Lisa nodded. "Humans have always been good at one thing: turning disadvantages into advantages. We take what others discard and make it valuable. She leaned forward. I want to put together a team. Not conventional scientists, but people who see patterns others miss. Sounds like my kind of project, Kyle said with a grin. Count me in. 3 months later, in a secure facility beneath the Nevada desert, Lisa's team had grown to 15 people. Engineers, programmers, physicists, and even a linguist who was working to decode the symbols on the alien tech. They called themselves the Phoenix Project, rising from the ashes of what the Vashiri had discarded. The central lab was crowded with equipment, both human and modified alien. In the middle sat their first major breakthrough. They had managed to power a small human device using one of the damaged Vashiri power cells. It works, Lisa said, watching as the energy readings remained stable. It actually works. The team gathered around, faces lit by the soft blue glow of the interface they'd created between human and alien technology. It's just the beginning, Kyle said. We've barely scratched the surface of what these components can do. Dr. Ray Patel, their quantum physicist, nodded in agreement. The Vashiri don't understand humans. They see technology as a linear progression, but we've always excelled at unexpected combinations, at finding connections between seemingly unrelated things. Lisa looked around at her team, all of them brilliant, all of them seeing potential where others saw only limitations. The Vashiri think they're being kind, giving toys to children. They don't realize they're giving us the pieces to build something they've never imagined. The next day, another Vashiri ship arrived in Earth's orbit. Another delivery of what they considered junk was on its way, but this time Lisa and her team would be waiting with new eyes and new purpose. On the Vashiri mothership, Admiral Jantok stood before the High Council, discussing their ongoing mission to Earth. The humans continue to accept our discarded technology with gratitude, he reported. They attempt to study it, though their understanding is primitive at best. And the integration plan? Asked a council member. Proceeding as scheduled. We provide them with harmless pieces, nothing that could possibly be weaponized or give them true advancement. In 30 cycles, they will be ready for full integration into the Empire as a resource world. The council members nodded in approval, unaware that below them on the blue planet they viewed with such condescension, humanity had already begun to turn their scraps into something the Vashiri had never anticipated. Something that would one day make the stars themselves tremble. 6 months passed since the Phoenix Project began in the abandoned missile silo deep beneath the Nevada desert. The facility had changed dramatically. What had once been a cold, empty concrete shell was now filled with a mix of human and alien technology. Workstations lined the walls, each dedicated to a different aspect of research. In the center of the main room stood their greatest achievement so far, a power core that combined Vashiri energy cells with human engineering. Lisa Morgan stood before the core, watching as it hummed with steady blue energy. The readings on her tablet showed power output 10 times greater than anything humans had built before. It wasn't just a copy of Vashiri technology, it was something new, something neither human nor alien, but a bridge between the two. We did it, she said softly. We actually did it. Kyle Winters looked up from his workstation and smiled. Did you ever doubt we would? Every single day, Lisa admitted. But doubt is part of the process, right? The door to the lab slid open and Steve Garcia entered. As the team's quantum physicist, he had been essential in understanding the exotic particles contained in what the Vashiri considered depleted power cells. The new energy signature is stable, he announced, handing Lisa a datapad. Whatever the Vashiri use these cells for, they only tap about 30% of their potential. They throw them away when they could be reconfigured to produce even more power. Their waste, our gain, Kyle said, joining them at the core. The question is, what do we do with all this energy? Lisa's eyes remained fixed on the glowing core. We keep building. This is just the beginning. In another section of the facility, Dr. Olivia Wright sat surrounded by screens filled with alien symbols. As a linguist who specialized in code breaking, she had taken on the challenge of deciphering the operating systems of the discarded Vashiri tech. Most thought it was impossible. How could humans understand a language evolved on another world? But Olivia saw patterns where others saw only chaos. After months of work, she had made a breakthrough. It's not just a language, she explained to Lisa during their weekly meeting. It's a way of thinking. Their code doesn't follow a linear path like ours. It branches, reconnects, loops back on itself. Once I understood that, I could start to see how to speak to their machines. Lisa leaned forward, intrigued. And what are their machines saying? They're waiting for instructions, Olivia said with a smile. The Vashiri never wiped their systems before giving them to us. Why would they? They assumed we could never understand their language or interface with their tech. She tapped her keyboard, and one of the screens changed to show what looked like a control panel. But now we can. The Phoenix project continued to grow. More scientists joined, bringing new perspectives and skills. General Paul Donovan, their military liaison, provided security and resources. Though skeptical at first, even he had become a believer after seeing their progress. We're playing with fire, he warned during a project review. These aliens are thousands of years ahead of us. If they realize what we're doing, they won't, Lisa assured him. Their arrogance blinds them. They see us as clever animals at best, trying to mimic their technology without understanding it. They don't expect us to innovate, to create something new from their scraps. And that's exactly what we're doing, Kyle added. We're not just copying their tech. We're reinventing it. Not everything went smoothly. There were accidents, setbacks, moments of failure that tested their resolve. During one catastrophic test, an energy spike caused an explosion that injured 3 engineers and nearly compromised the entire facility. For a week after, Lisa questioned whether they should continue. It was during this moment of doubt that Kyle showed her something that changed everything. In a small side lab, he had been working on integrating 7 different pieces of Vashiri technology, components that were never meant to work together. Look at this, he said, activating the device. It was no larger than a refrigerator, but the energy readings it produced were off the charts. It's not just a power source. It's something more. Lisa studied the readings, her eyes widening. This is game-changing, Kyle finished for her. The Vashiri use brute force approaches. Bigger ships, more power, redundant systems. But we've had to be clever, to do more with less. And in the process, we've discovered something they missed. The device Kyle had built could manipulate gravitational fields on a small scale. It was crude, unpredictable, but the implications were enormous. If refined, it could revolutionize propulsion, energy production, maybe even weapons technology. We need to scale this up, Lisa decided. And we need to keep it absolutely secret. The Vashiri continued their regular donations of discarded technology. Every 3 months, a shuttle would dock at the International Space Station, and Speaker Kren would present his gifts with the same condescending smile. And every time, Lisa or another member of her team would accept with practiced gratitude, hiding their growing understanding of what these pieces really represented. After one such exchange, Commander Alan Becker cornered Lisa in a private communication room on the station. Something's changed, he said. The way you look at their tech now. What aren't you telling me? Lisa hesitated, then made a decision. Alan had been supportive from the beginning, one of the few who saw the potential in the Vashiri's cast-offs. We're building something, she admitted. Something big. If it works, it could change everything. Alan studied her face. The Vashiri, do they suspect? No. They think we're still fumbling in the dark, playing with toys we don't understand. And are we? Understanding, I mean. Lisa smiled, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her in months, more than they could possibly imagine. Back at the Phoenix facility, the team worked tirelessly. Days blended into nights as they refined their creation. The device, now nicknamed Phoenix Prime, had evolved. By combining the alien waste and configurations the Vashiri had never imagined, they'd created something entirely new. One night, as Lisa and Kyle worked late in the main lab, Steve burst in, his face pale. You need to see this, he said, activating the main screen. It showed a recording of the most recent communication from the Vashiri mothership. On screen, Admiral Jantok addressed the United Nations. His usual diplomatic tone was gone, replaced by something colder, more direct. Your species amuses us, he said. We have watched your primitive attempts to understand our discarded technology. It is like watching infants play with tools they cannot comprehend. Lisa and Kyle exchanged glances as the Admiral continued. It is time for honesty. Your Earth was never receiving charity. You are part of a long-term integration strategy. We study developing civilizations by giving them technology they cannot fully utilize, watching their development, then incorporating them into our empire once they have proven marginally useful. The room fell silent as the Admiral delivered his final message. In approximately 30 of your Earth years, we will return in greater numbers. Your planet will become a resource extraction colony. Those of you who prove adaptable will serve the Empire. The rest are unnecessary. The recording ended, leaving the lab in stunned silence. They never planned to help us, Steve said quietly. This whole time, Lisa's shock quickly gave way to determination. This changes everything. She turned to Kyle. How soon can Phoenix Prime be ready for a full-scale test? Kyle considered the question. 2 weeks, maybe less if we push it. Push it, Lisa said. We just went from a research project to humanity's last hope. In orbit above Earth, the Vashiri mothership continued its silent watch, unaware that in the depths of a Nevada desert, their discarded scraps were being forged into a weapon that would soon challenge their dominion of the stars. The world changed overnight after Admiral Jantok's announcement. People reacted with fear, anger, and despair. Some denied the truth, claiming it was all a hoax. Others prepared for the end, gathering supplies and building shelters that would prove useless against Vashiri technology. Governments scrambled to present a unified front, but the panic was hard to contain. How do you fight an enemy centuries beyond your understanding? In the underground facility in Nevada, the Phoenix team worked with renewed urgency. Sleep became a luxury no one could afford. Meals were eaten at workstations. Every piece of Vashiri technology they had collected over the past 3 years was re-examined, tested, and integrated into their project. Lisa Morgan hadn't left the facility in 3 days. She stood in the main lab, staring at the latest test results on her tablet. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, but her gaze remained sharp and focused. We're getting closer, she told Kyle, who was adjusting the calibration on what they now called the Phoenix device. The gravitational field is stable at 10 meters. We need to expand it to at least 100 to affect the Vashiri mothership. Kyle nodded, not looking up from his work. The power requirements increase exponentially with the field size. We need more of their energy cells, Lisa frowned. The next donation isn't scheduled for 2 weeks. We might not have that much time. General Paul Donovan entered the lab, his uniform crisp despite the crisis. Unlike many military leaders who had reacted to the Vashiri threat with useless displays of force, Donovan had put his faith in the Phoenix Project. We may have a solution to your power problem, he said. After the Admiral's announcement, several countries admitted to hoarding Vashiri technology instead of turning it over for joint research. China has 3 intact power cells they're willing to share. Russia has damaged hull fragments with unusual properties. Even North Korea is offering what they've collected. Lisa's eyes lit up. That could make all the difference. How soon can we get them? Transport planes are already in the air. They'll be here by morning. For the first time in days, Lisa allowed herself a moment of hope. Perhaps humanity could stand together against the stars after all. In another section of the facility, Dr. Olivia Wright continued her work deciphering the Vashiri operating systems. Each breakthrough revealed new possibilities. The aliens had never bothered to secure their technology against human interference. Why would they? In their arrogance, they couldn't imagine that primitives would understand their language, let alone reprogram their systems. "I've found something," Olivia told Lisa during a late-night meeting. "The Vashiri ships use a network similar to our internet. Their waste tech still contains access protocols. If we can connect to their network, we could access their systems," Lisa finished, immediately grasping the implications. "Maybe even their ship controls." Olivia nodded. "It's not that simple, of course. Their security is beyond anything we've developed, but there might be backdoors, maintenance channels they don't monitor closely because they never expect anyone to find them. Find those backdoors," Lisa instructed. "If we can combine a cyber approach with the Phoenix device, we might have a chance." The next morning, the promised technology arrived from around the world. Scientists from a dozen countries came with it, offering their expertise and assistance. The Phoenix Project, once a small secret operation, had become humanity's united effort to survive. Steve Garcia led a team examining the new power cells from China. "These are different from the ones we've worked with before," he reported. "Newer models, less degraded. If we integrate them with our existing setup, we could double our power output." "Do it," Lisa ordered. "Kyle, how's the expansion of the gravity field coming?" Kyle looked up from his workstation, allowing himself a small smile for the first time in days. With these new components, I think we can push it to 200 meters, maybe more. The Phoenix device was evolving rapidly. What had started as a refrigerator-sized prototype now filled a large section of the main lab. Its core glowed with blue-green energy, occasionally pulsing with brighter flares that made the air around it seem to bend and warp. General Donovan watched the activity with a mixture of hope and concern. Even if we get this working, how do we deploy it? The Vashiri mothership is in orbit. We can't exactly drive this thing up there. We've been working on that too, Lisa replied. She led him to a smaller lab where a team of engineers were modifying what looked like a satellite. We're converting one of our deep space probes to carry a smaller version of the device. It won't be as powerful, but it should be enough to disrupt their systems temporarily. And then what? Lisa's expression hardened. Then we show them humanity isn't as helpless as they think. 10 days after the Admiral's announcement, the Phoenix device was ready for its first full test. The entire team gathered in the observation room, separated from the main lab by thick protective glass. On the other side, the device hummed with power, its core now a swirling vortex of energy that seemed to pull at the very fabric of reality around it. Power levels stable, Steve reported from his station. Field integrity holding at 98%. Lisa took a deep breath. Begin field expansion. Take it to 50 meters. Kyle entered the commands. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the air around the device began to shimmer, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt. Light bent around the edges of the expanding field. On the monitoring screens, gravity readings fluctuated wildly. 50 meters achieved, Kyle announced. Holding steady. Take it to 100, Lisa ordered. As the field expanded, the effect became more pronounced. Small objects at the edge of the field, pens, paper clips, small tools, began to drift upward, caught in the gravitational distortion. 100 meters, Kyle confirmed. All systems nominal, Lisa nodded. 200. This time, the expansion brought visible strain. The device's housing creaked. Warning lights flashed on several monitors. The hum of power deepened to a resonant thrum that vibrated through the floor. Power fluctuation in the main core, Steve warned. We're pushing the limits. Hold it steady, Lisa insisted. We need to know if it can reach full capacity. For 30 seconds, the field held at 200 meters, encapsulating nearly the entire main lab. Then alarms blared as power levels spiked dangerously. Shut it down, Lisa ordered. And Kyle immediately began the shutdown sequence. As the field collapsed and the device powered down, a tense silence filled the observation room. Then slowly applause began to spread through the team. It worked, Kyle said, his voice filled with quiet amazement. It actually worked. Lisa allowed herself a moment to share in their accomplishment. The Phoenix device had successfully created a controlled gravitational distortion large enough to affect a ship the size of the Vashiri mothership. It wasn't a conventional weapon. It was something entirely new, born from humanity's desperate ingenuity and the aliens' own discarded technology. General Donovan approached her as the team began analyzing the test data. How soon can we deploy? The satellite carrier will be ready in 3 days, Lisa replied. But we'll only get one shot at this. The Vashiri will adapt quickly once they realize what we're doing. Then we better make it count, Donovan said grimly. Up in orbit, aboard the Vashiri mothership, Admiral Jantok stood before a view screen showing Earth rotating below. Another officer approached, bowing slightly. The humans are in disarray as expected, the officer reported. Their military forces have mobilized, but they pose no threat to our technology. Some have attempted to attack our satellite systems with primitive missiles. And the integration preparations? Jantok asked. On schedule. Our survey teams have identified the primary resource deposits. When the collection fleet arrives, extraction can begin immediately. Jantok nodded, satisfied. The humans reacted just as predicted. Fear, disorganization, futile displays of resistance. He turned from the view screen. Continue monitoring. Report any unusual activity. Of course, Admiral, the officer said, though I doubt these primitives could surprise us now. As the officer left, Jantok allowed himself a moment of reflection. In his long career studying developing worlds, humans had been particularly interesting. Their adaptability, their creativity in the face of limitations, these were useful traits. Perhaps more of them would be suitable for service in the Empire than originally estimated. What Jantok couldn't know was that deep beneath the Nevada desert, those very traits had created something beyond his comprehension, a weapon built from his people's cast-offs that would soon challenge the Vashiri's dominion of the stars. The launch day arrived with a sky full of stars and a rising sun that painted the horizon in shades of gold and pink. At a secure launch facility in the Arizona desert, the modified satellite sat atop its rocket, ready for its journey into orbit. The satellite looked ordinary from the outside, but within it carried a miniaturized version of the Phoenix device, the result of 3 years of reverse engineering alien technology and 2 weeks of desperate innovation. Lisa Morgan stood at the observation platform, watching as final checks were completed. Beside her, Kyle Winters reviewed the launch data on his tablet. They had worked for 36 hours straight to finish the preparations, and exhaustion showed in their faces. But there was something else there too: determination, hope, and a fierce pride in what they had accomplished. Final systems check complete, Kyle reported. The device is stable and ready for activation once it reaches deployment position. Lisa nodded. And the targeting system? Locked on the Vashiri mothership. Once in position, we'll have a window of approximately 3 minutes to activate before they detect the satellite. General Donovan joined them on the platform. NASA reports the Vashiri have shown no reaction to our launch preparations. They're still monitoring our military movements, but they don't seem concerned about a single satellite launch. Good, Lisa said. Their arrogance will be their downfall. They're so convinced of their superiority that they can't imagine we could threaten them. She checked her watch. 30 minutes to launch. I need to check in with Olivia. In a mobile command center near the launch pad, Dr. Olivia Wright sat surrounded by computer screens. Her team of programmers worked frantically, finalizing the cyber attack that would complement the Phoenix device's physical assault on the Vashiri systems. How are we looking? Lisa asked as she entered. Olivia looked up from her work. We've identified 3 potential access points to their network. Their main systems are beyond our reach, but we should be able to disrupt their shield harmonics and sensor arrays long enough to give the Phoenix device a clear shot. And they won't see it coming? Not until it's too late. We're masking our intrusion attempt as routine data transmission from their own monitoring probes. By the time they realize what's happening, the gravitational field will already be destabilizing their systems. Lisa squeezed Olivia's shoulder. You've done amazing work. All of you have. As Lisa returned to the observation platform, she found Commander Alan Becker had arrived. After years of serving as humanity's reluctant ambassador to the Vashiri, he had become one of the Phoenix Project's strongest supporters. I never thought we'd get this far, he admitted as they watched the final launch preparations. When they first arrived with their gifts, I thought they were just being charitable to a primitive species. Now I realized they were playing a long game, softening us up for conquest. They underestimated us, Lisa replied. They saw our limitations but missed our strengths. Humans have always excelled at adapting, at making the most of what we have. Let's hope it's enough, Alan said softly. The countdown began. Tension filled the air as everyone took their positions. This single launch represented humanity's best, perhaps only hope against the Vashiri threat. If it failed, there would be no second chance. T-10, 9, 8. The launch controller's voice echoed across the facility. Lisa held her breath, her hands gripping the railing tightly. 3, 2, 1, ignition. The rocket engines ignited with a deafening roar, and slowly, majestically, the vehicle rose from the launch pad. Flames and smoke billowed beneath it as it climbed into the clear morning sky, carrying humanity's secret weapon toward the stars. For nearly 5 minutes, the team watched in silence as the rocket ascended. Then came the confirmation they had been waiting for. First stage separation successful. Second stage ignition confirmed. We are on track for orbital insertion. A cheer went up from the gathered scientists and engineers. Lisa allowed herself a small smile but remained focused. They were still a long way from victory. The next 90 minutes passed in tense anticipation as the satellite reached its deployment orbit. Finally, Mission Control confirmed what they had been waiting to hear. Satellite successfully deployed. All systems operational. We are in position. Lisa nodded to Olivia, who immediately began the cyber infiltration. Her fingers flew across the keyboard as she navigated the alien networks they had spent months studying. Initiating access protocol, Olivia announced. Deploying masking algorithm. They shouldn't detect our presence for at least 4 minutes. Lisa turned to Kyle. Start the device activation sequence. Kyle nodded and began entering commands. On the main screen, They watched as the satellite oriented itself toward the Vashiri mothership. The massive alien vessel hung in orbit, unaware of the danger approaching. Phoenix device powering up, Kyle reported.
Energy signature is stable.
Beginning gravitational field generation in 30 seconds. General Donovan joined them at the command console. What exactly should we expect when this thing activates? If it works as designed, Lisa explained, the device will create a localized gravitational distortion field focused on the Vashiri ship. It won't damage the ship directly, but it should disrupt their propulsion systems and shield generators. That will force them to divert power from weapons and communications, giving us a window to deliver our message. And if it doesn't work? Lisa met his gaze steadily. Then we've just announced our intentions to a vastly superior enemy, and we have no backup plan. On the screen, a progress bar showed the Phoenix device charging to full power. Olivia continued her cyber assault, methodically breaching the Vashiri security protocols one by one. I'm in their secondary systems, she announced. Sensor grid compromised. Shield harmonics accessed. They haven't detected us yet. Phoenix device at full power, Kyle added. Gravitational field initializing now. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. The Vashiri ship continued to orbit peacefully, its strange, beautiful hull shimmering in the sunlight. Then, almost imperceptibly at first, the massive vessel began to shimmer differently, as if the space around it was bending. It's working, Kyle said, his voice barely above a whisper. The gravitational field is forming around their ship. On the monitoring screens, data poured in. The gravitational distortion was growing stronger, expanding to encompass the entire Vashiri vessel. The satellite's sensors detected power fluctuations within the alien ship as its systems struggled to compensate for the unexpected interference. They're trying to raise their shields, Olivia reported. I'm blocking their commands, but they'll bypass me soon. Increase power to the gravitational field, Lisa ordered. Kyle complied, pushing the Phoenix device to its limits. The effect on the Vashiri ship became more pronounced. Its hull appeared to warp slightly as the artificial gravity well pulled at it from multiple directions simultaneously. Suddenly, the communications panel lit up. We're receiving a transmission from the Vashiri ship, the comm officer announced. Put it through, Lisa said. Admiral Jontok's face appeared on the screen, his three eyes wide with what looked like a mixture of shock and outrage. What are you doing? He demanded. This technology is impossible for your kind. Lisa stepped forward, facing the alien commander directly. We didn't copy your technology, Admiral. We reimagined it. You gave us junk. We built something you never could. Cease this attack immediately, Jontok ordered. You do not understand the forces you are playing with. We understand perfectly, Lisa replied coldly. You plan to turn our world into a colony, our people into servants. We're showing you that humans aren't as helpless as you thought. On the monitoring screens, the Vashiri ship's power systems continued to fluctuate wildly. Small explosions were visible along its hull as overloaded systems failed. They're trying to target our satellite, Olivia warned. Their weapons are coming online. Push the field to maximum, Lisa ordered. Give it everything we've got, the Phoenix device responded, channeling more power into the gravitational distortion. The space around the Vashiri ship seemed to fold in on itself, creating visible ripples in the fabric of reality. Admiral, Lisa said, turning back to the screen, we're offering you a choice. Leave Earth's orbit and do not return. Tell your empire that this planet is protected. Or stay and face the consequences of underestimating humanity. Jantok's face contorted with fury. You primitive creatures. You have no idea what forces you've unleashed. He turned to someone off-screen. Target their satellite and destroy it. Field at maximum power, Kyle reported. The device can't sustain this level for more than 2 minutes. Lisa watched the screen intently, waiting to see if their desperate gamble would pay off. The Vashiri ship struggled against the invisible forces pulling at it. Its once graceful form now distorted by the gravitational field. Their weapon systems are failing, Olivia announced triumphantly. The gravitational distortion is preventing proper targeting. For a moment, it seemed like they had won. Then alarms blared across the command center. The Phoenix device is overloading, Kyle warned. Power core destabilizing. We have less than 30 seconds before catastrophic failure. Lisa made a split-second decision. Focus all remaining power on their propulsion systems. If we can't destroy them, We can at least strand them here where we can keep an eye on them. 3 days after the attack on the Vashiri mothership, the world held its breath. The massive alien vessel hung in orbit, visibly damaged but still intact. No communications had come from Admiral Jantok since the Phoenix device had overloaded. Military satellites and ground-based telescopes kept constant watch, monitoring for any sign of recovery or retaliation. In the underground facility beneath the Nevada desert, Lisa Morgan gathered with her team to assess their situation. The command center had been expanded to accommodate representatives from a dozen nations, all working together now that the Phoenix project had become humanity's unified defense effort. "What's the status of the Vashiri ship?" Lisa asked as she entered the room. Kyle looked up from his workstation. "Their main propulsion systems remain offline. They've managed to stabilize their power core, but the gravitational distortion caused significant structural damage. They won't be going anywhere soon. And their weapons?" "Partially restored," Olivia reported. "They could probably target ground installations, but their main cannons are still non-functional. Our cyber attack damaged their targeting systems more than we expected." Lisa nodded, taking in the information. "So we've wounded them, but they're still dangerous." "Extremely," General Donovan confirmed. "And we have to assume they've sent distress signals to their fleet. We don't know how long it will take reinforcements to arrive, but they will come." The room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. Their victory had been significant but incomplete. They had proven humanity could fight back, but the war was far from over. "We need to build more Phoenix devices," Lisa decided. "Not just 1 or 2, dozens. We need to distribute them globally, create a planetary defense network." "With what?" Kyle asked. "We used almost all of our salvaged Vashiri tech to build the first device. The satellite version was a stripped-down model, and even that pushed our resources to the limit." Lisa smiled for the first time in days. "We're about to get a lot more alien technology to work with." She nodded toward the main screen, where the damaged Vashiri ship floated against the backdrop of Earth. "That ship is full of exactly what we need, and it's sitting right on our doorstep." The plan came together quickly. Using the knowledge they had gained from their first encounter, the Phoenix team developed a daring strategy. They would build a small, stealthy craft using reverse-engineered Vashiri technology and send a team to board the damaged mothership. Their mission: retrieve vital components and technical data that could help Earth prepare for the coming invasion. 5 days later, in a secure hangar at Edwards Air Force Base, the boarding craft was ready. It wasn't much to look at. A hybrid of human and alien technology cobbled together from salvaged parts. But it had 2 critical advantages. It could approach the Vashiri ship without being detected, and it could dock with their hull using the same mechanisms as their own shuttles. Lisa stood before the small team of volunteers who would undertake the mission. Among them were Kyle, who understood the alien technology better than anyone, Dr. Olivia Wright, whose knowledge of Vashiri systems would be essential, and Captain Eric Daniels, a pilot with experience flying experimental aircraft. "This mission is beyond dangerous," Lisa told them frankly. "We don't know what conditions you'll find on that ship. The Vashiri could be waiting with armed resistance, or the ship itself could be unstable. If anything goes wrong, we have no way to rescue you." "We understand the risks," Captain Daniels replied, "but this is our best chance to get what we need to defend Earth." The launch took place at midnight under cover of darkness. The boarding craft, nicknamed Defiant by its crew, rose silently into the star-filled sky, its modified engines barely visible even to those watching for it. As it climbed toward orbit, Lisa and her remaining team tracked its progress from the command center. "Defiant has achieved stable orbit," the flight controller announced. "Beginning approach to Vashiri vessel." On board the craft, Captain Daniels guided them carefully toward the massive alien ship. Up close, the damage was even more apparent. Large sections of the hull were warped and twisted. Energy still flickered erratically around what appeared to be weapon ports. "No signs of active scanning," Olivia reported, monitoring the alien ship's systems. "They either don't see us or don't consider us a threat." "Let's hope it stays that way," Kyle said as he prepared the docking mechanism. "I've identified what looks like a maintenance port on their lower hull. We should be able to attach there without triggering alarms." The Defiant approached slowly, every movement calculated to avoid detection. As they neared the Vashiri ship, the differences in scale became startlingly clear. Their small craft was like a gnat next to the enormous alien vessel. With expert precision, Captain Daniels positioned them beneath the targeted section of hull. The docking mechanism extended, connected, and locked with a solid thunk that resonated through the Defiant. "We're attached," he confirmed, preparing for boarding. Kyle and Olivia donned their protective suits. They had no idea what atmosphere, if any, they would find inside the Vashiri ship, so they took no chances. Each carried specialized equipment designed to extract data from alien systems and remove key components. "We'll maintain radio contact as long as possible," Captain Daniels told them as they prepared to enter the airlock. "If you're not back in 3 hours, I'll have to assume the worst and return to Earth with whatever data we've managed to gather." Kyle nodded. "If we're not back in 3 hours, we're probably not coming back at all." The airlock cycled, and Kyle and Olivia found themselves inside the Vashiri ship. The corridor before them was dimly lit by emergency lighting, casting eerie shadows along the curved walls. The air was breathable but thin, suggesting life support systems were functioning at minimal levels. "No sign of crew," Olivia whispered, checking her handheld scanner. "Power signatures indicate most survivors have retreated to the central section of the ship." "Then let's work fast," Kyle replied. "Engineering should be this way." They moved through the alien vessel as quickly as they dared, guided by the knowledge they had pieced together from years of studying Vashiri technology. Twice they had to hide as maintenance drones passed by, but no living aliens crossed their path. The engineering section was a vast chamber filled with technology beyond human understanding. Power cores pulsed with energy. Strange machines hummed and clicked. And everywhere were components similar to the junk the Vashiri had so casually discarded to Earth, only newer, more advanced and fully functional. "Look at all this," Kyle breathed, his eyes wide behind his helmet visor. "With even a fraction of this technology, we could build Phoenix devices 10 times more powerful than our prototype." They worked methodically, gathering components, downloading data, taking samples of materials. Every item they collected represented a quantum leap in human technological capability. But time was their enemy. Already an hour had passed since they boarded. "We should move to the central computer core," Olivia suggested. "If we can access their main database, we might learn about their fleet movements, maybe even their invasion plans." Kyle agreed, and they made their way deeper into the ship. The central core was protected by security measures, but Olivia's understanding of Vashiri systems allowed them to bypass the locks. Inside, they found what looked like a library of glowing crystals, each containing vast amounts of data. "This is it," Olivia said excitedly, "their entire knowledge base. Star maps, ship designs, weapons schematics, everything." As they began downloading the data, an alarm suddenly blared through the ship. Red lights flashed along the corridors and a voice spoke in the Vashiri language. "They've detected us," Olivia translated, her voice tight with fear. "They're sealing off this section." "We need to move," Kyle urged, grabbing the last of the components they had collected. "Now!" They ran through the corridors, racing against time as bulkheads began to close around them. The path back to their docking point was being cut off section by section. Captain Daniels' voice crackled over their comms, warning that Vashiri security drones were converging on their position. With seconds to spare, they reached the airlock where the Defiant was docked. As they cycled through, the ship's engines were already powering up. "Hang on," Captain Daniels shouted as they tumbled into the cabin. "We're leaving." The Defiant detached from the Vashiri ship just as energy weapons began to target their position. With a burst of speed that pushed them all back into their seats, the small craft darted away from the mothership, using its size and maneuverability to evade the sluggish defensive fire. Within minutes, they were clear of immediate danger and on a return trajectory to Earth. In the cabin, Kyle and Olivia examined their precious cargo, components, data crystals, and technical readouts that would revolutionize human technology. "Did we get enough?" Captain Daniels asked. Kyle nodded, his expression a mixture of exhaustion and triumph. "More than enough. With what we've gathered here, we can build weapons that will make the first Phoenix device look like a child's toy." Back on Earth, the news of the mission's success spread rapidly through the Phoenix project. As the stolen technology was analyzed and incorporated into new designs, a global defense network began to take shape. Phoenix devices were constructed and deployed around the planet, each more powerful than the last.